Would you ever eat monsters to gain superpowers? We start off with Hajime Nagumo being thrown into the abyss of the Orcus Labyrinth, filled with monsters stronger than he's ever seen. A bear monstrosity severs his arm and eats it. Hajime escapes by transmuting his way deep into the ground, where fortunately he finds a divinity stone that creates a constantly refilling pool of ambrosia healing fluid, allowing him to survive the removal of his arm. In flashbacks, it is revealed Hajime has no warrior skills, his only real skill being transmute, allowing him to manipulate matter. When his class entered the dungeon, they were confronted by a behemoth and he was deliberately pushed into the abyss by one of his classmates after trying to save Kaori. In the abyss, Hajime starts to break due to intense hunger and begins to hunt the extremely strong wolves by using traps. Upon eating one, the cells of the monster change his DNA, and only the constant healing from the ambrosia saves him. His body transforms, becoming much stronger due to the constant tearing apart of his muscles from the symbiosis of his and the monster's DNA and the healing of the ambrosia. After his transformation, he hunts further monsters, eating them to raise his levels and gain their physical and magical abilities. He even uses his transmutation skill to create powerful weaponry through trial and error, crafting his first pistol, Donner. Finally, he hunts and eats the bear monstrosity that ate his arm before looking for a way deeper into the abyss. The king is told of Hajime's death and, unwilling to admit to a hero's death, forbids any mention of the incident. Shizuku, Kaori's friend, reveals through flashbacks that the Pope summoned their high school class and their teacher to this world to act as heroes in humanity's war against demons and monsters. She notices her classmate, Hayama, acting strangely but does not hear him reassuring himself that no one saw him attacking Hajime. Hajime eventually reaches a giant stone door and defeats the guardians, retrieving keys from their corpses. Kaori is determined not to give up on finding Hajime. Behind the doors, Hajime finds a young girl imprisoned in a crystal but decides to leave her, believing she must be a monster imprisoned for a reason. She admits she is an immortal vampire princess but insists she was betrayed by an uncle who wanted her position, but unable to kill her he sealed her away. Feeling sympathy for being betrayed himself, Hajime frees her. Deciding to abandon her old name, she asks Hajime for a new one, so he names her Yue for the moon, as her golden hair reminds him of moonlight. Hajime and Yue are attacked by a giant scorpion monster. Yue feeds on Hajime's blood, recovering her magic, and they kill the scorpion. While eating the flesh, Hajime tells Yue all vampires were exterminated 300 years ago, making her the last vampire. Yue explains the labyrinths were built by mavericks, powerful magic users who attempted and failed to defeat God, so they each constructed a labyrinth as sanctuaries against God's revenge and may still be alive on the deepest floors. Hajime transmutes the scorpion's shell to create a rifle named Schlagen. Hajime tells Yue how he was betrayed but no longer cares about his classmates, or even revenge. He just wants enough power to return to Japan, and as Yue no longer has a home, he asks her to go with him. Hajime's classmates decide to enter the labyrinth again. Hajime and Yue enter a floor where all monsters are infected and psychically controlled by a plant-like monster. Yue is infected. However, one of the monsters Hajime previously ate makes him immune to the infection, allowing him to kill the monster. Several days later, they reach the bottom floor and prepare to face the final boss monster. Hajime and Yue confront the final boss, a giant hydra-like monster with 6 heads, each capable of a different type of magic and one of which can heal the others. Yue is distracted by the fear-inducing hypnosis of a second head and almost eaten, so Hajime snaps her out of it with a kiss. Hajime succeeds in using Schlagen to destroy 3 heads, including the healing head, and Yue destroys the remaining 3 with lightning. Before they can relax, a surprise 7th head emerges. Hajime is injured protecting Yue and Schlagen is destroyed. Seeing Hajime unconscious, Yue drags him to safety and tries to attack with his pistol but is injured. Even unconscious, Hajime hears Yue crying and somehow increases his speed such that he can dodge all attacks. He explodes grenades all around the room, dropping the roof on the head and allowing Yue to kill it for good with lightning. As the final door opens, Hajime passes out from exhaustion. Meanwhile, Aiko Hatayama, Hajime's teacher also summoned as a hero, argues with the Pope who is insisting they re-enter the labyrinth. The Pope agrees to only send students that volunteer as long as Aiko continues using her fertility magic to support the kingdom's struggling agriculture. Hajime awakens in bed with Yue, having lost his right eye, and learns they are in the Maverick's home. They discover the skeleton of the Maverick before a magic circle. Hajime has his memories forcibly examined by a spell which activates a recording the Maverick left behind. The maverick introduces himself as Oscar Orcus and for defeating his labyrinth deems Hajime worthy to know the truth of the maverick, God War. Hajime's classmates enter the labyrinth and defeat the behemoth they believe killed Hajime. Oscar grants Hajime his power and memories before disappearing. Hajime realizes the mavericks were actually liberators and reveals he has inherited Oscar's ancient creation magic, allowing him to add magical properties to transmuted objects to create artifacts. They bury Oscar and Hajime takes his ring which controls a portal to the surface. Hajime decides to conquer all the labyrinths for their ancient magics. Over 2 months Hajime takes advantage of Oscar's treasure, library and workshop to learn as much as he can, crafting weapons and vehicles and outfitting himself with an advanced prosthetic arm and a magical jewel to replace his eye. Yue continues seducing him several times so he gives her a magical ring and warns her that his plans will eventually make them enemies of the church and their god, Ihit. Yue swears to stay with him regardless as they teleport to the surface. Shei Haulia, a rabbit girl, waits impatiently at the spot Hajime and Yue are supposed to appear. When they arrive Hajime and Yue attempt to ignore her as she is quite annoying. Hajime eventually agrees to listen and she explains her tribe is threatened by monsters, and with her magical ability to predict possible futures she foresaw Hajime would save them. Hajime agrees in exchange for her guiding them to a great tree mentioned in Oscar's library. Arriving at the tribe's forest Hajime kills several monsters, using an unfortunate Shei as bait. The rabbit men ask Hajime for training as they are tired of being helpless. Hajime struggles to overcome their natural rabbit-like timidity so he puts them through a merciless training routine of kill monsters or I'll kill you instead, turning them into tough monster killers. Shei takes them to the tree which Hajime determines is the entrance to another labyrinth, but a stone slab nearby with slots for rings like Oscar's, makes Hajime realize this labyrinth will only open after he has defeated other labyrinths first. The rabbit men decide to continue training and guard the tree until Hajime returns. Shei, having fallen in love with Hajime, travels with them and Yue is forced to let her after Shei technically won a duel by managing to scratch Yui's face. They travel to Risen Gorge, containing the entrance to another labyrinth. They are greeted by the voice of hyperactive maverick Milady Rison who built a maze-like labyrinth filled with practical jokes which mostly target Shei. Several of Hajime's classmates decide to abandon the labyrinth and help Aiko on the farms. Hajime and the girls make it to the bottom of the labyrinth to face the boss, Milady herself operating a giant robot. After a lengthy battle they succeed in cracking her crystal heart. She uses the last of her energy to wish Hajime luck against Ihit. Though Hajime claims he has no intention of defeating Ihit, Milady assures him he will one day be a god-killer. However, upon entering the treasure room they find the actual real Milady's soul inside a small, cartoonish golem, whom Shei punishes for all the pranks. For completing the labyrinth she gives Hajime her ring, and Yue her ancient gravity magic. She then expels them from the labyrinth through a whirlpool, though Shei drowns as she cannot swim. Hajime is asked by the Adventurers Guild to find missing adventurers, including a noble's son. They travel to a nearby farming village, unaware the farms are being visited by Aiko and several classmates, though one classmate, Shimizu, has disappeared. Hajime tries to avoid them but they hear Shei calling him by name. Aiko tearfully confronts him about where he has been but he ignores her. They are confronted by an arrogant Templar knight who insults Shei, so Hajime severely injures him. His classmates are shocked and scared by his new merciless personality though Aiko swears she will find a way to bring him back. Later, Hajime visits Aiko alone to tell her the truth about the war against the demons. Centuries ago several humans discovered the truth, the god Ihit was not on their side, he was merely controlling the war for his own amusement. These humans became the liberators to free mortals from Ihit's tyranny. Unfortunately, Ihit, through the church, had them labeled heretics and renamed mavericks. The remaining liberators built the labyrinths to keep their ancient magics safe until someone capable of defeating Ihit came along to claim their powers. Before leaving he also tells her in no uncertain terms that one of his classmates tried to murder him. The next morning Aiko and the students stubbornly insist on helping them search the mountains for the adventurers as Aiko wants to ask more questions about the liberators. Once in the mountains Hajime uses transmuted drones connected to his jewel eye to search for the adventurers. They find the noble's son, Will, the only survivor who reveals they were attacked by an army of monsters and a black dragon. While returning they are attacked by the dragon. Hajime succeeds in knocking it from the sky and attempts to pierce its armor with his weapon the pile bunker, which can drive xanthium stakes through any material. The dragon almost escapes until Shei knocks it out with Drucken. Deciding to forego piercing the armor, Hajime sadistically shoves the stake into its only unarmored area, the anus. However, the pain causes the dragon to reveal she is a female dragonborn, capable of taking a human form, and begs him to remove the stake in exchange for everything she knows. She admits she was magically forced by someone to attack Will and his friends, and as atonement, offers to help them stop that person. Hajime decides to kill her anyway, but Yue convinces him to spare her. He removes the stake and the dragon transforms into a young woman named Tio, a shameless masochist who admits she enjoyed the stake, just a little. Now their ally Tio reveals the person, whoever he is, has an army of 60,000 monsters and is planning to attack the farming village. Hajime is convinced to fight when Aiko asks him to. He erects barricades around the village while avoiding the amorous intentions of Tio, who finds his mixture of neglect and verbal abuse exciting. Hajime decides to dedicate their victory to Aiko, goddess of plenty, embarrassing her, then proceeds to massacre the monster army with transmuted miniguns and rocket launchers. With his ammunition depleted and Yue and Tio out of magic, Hajime and Shay rush to capture the mysterious robed commander as the monsters retreat. Hajime realizes the commander is the missing Shimizu. Shimizu admits he was disappointed not to be the only summoned hero, especially as he paled in comparison to his more powerful classmates, so he signed a contract with a demon, power, in exchange for killing Aiko. He scratches Aiko with a poisonous needle but is shot from behind by a monster sniper. Hajime shoots the sniper and heals Aiko with ambrosia via a kiss. As Shimizu lies dying, he offers loyalty to Hajime, who spots the lie in his eyes and mercilessly executes him, devastating Aiko. As they leave, Yue correctly guesses the sniper was aiming at Aiko, so Hajime finished killing Shimizu so Aiko would blame him and not herself, enabling her to recover much quicker psychologically. A slavery gang captures a rare mermaid child named Mayu and decide to sell her. Hajime returns Will to his father and collects his fee. Deciding they need a break, they explore the city as tourists. At an aquarium they meet a sentient talking fish and decide to free him. As thanks, he passes on a rumor of a captured mermaid child. Deciding this bothers him, Hajime and Shay wander the city until he senses the child in the sewers underground and rescues her, enraging the Slavers boss. Hajime and Shay keep Mayu safe but struggle with what to do next. Elsewhere, Yue and Tio discuss sharing Hajime between them. Hajime decides to give Mayu to the city guards, despite her begging to stay with Hajime. After handing a tearful, Mayu over, the guardhouse is attacked and Mayu kidnapped again. Enraged, Hajime begins systematically executing known associates of the Slavers looking for the upcoming auction, saving many children along the way. Locating the auction in a noble's mansion, Hajime executes the boss, rescues Mayu and blows up the mansion along with the auction's customers. Mayu decides to start calling an uncomfortable Hajime Papa, which causes Yue, Shay and Tio to demand Hajime get them all pregnant with his children. Despite his unease, Hajime takes to parenting Mayu quite well. They return to the city where Hajime and the other heroes were summoned. While visiting the Adventurers Guild, Hajime meets a panicked Endo, one of his classmates, who warns them Catalia the demon set a trap in the labyrinth for the rest of the class. The class are overwhelmed by Catalia's summoned monsters, unable to even get close to Catalia to try killing her. Hajime is indifferent until Endo upsets Mayu and he becomes downright reluctant to help at all. A student, Suzu, is injured, causing most of the class to flee. Hayama suggests signing contracts with the demon to survive. Kuki, the main hero, gets close to Catalia, but hesitates after she drops a locket with a picture of her lover, realizing she has a life outside the war as well. While hesitating, he is seriously injured. With support from the girls, Hajime decides to save his class, reasoning only one of them tried to kill him, meaning most of them are innocent. Shizuku's sword is broken, so she prepares to die alongside Kaori. However, they are saved at the last second by Hajime, having created a shortcut using his pile bunker to blast through the upper floors. Everyone is shocked to learn Hajime is still alive. Hajime sees through Catalia's magic and kills all her monsters. Hayama is terrified at Hajime's return, fearing he will be discovered as his attempted murderer. Hajime transmutes Shizuku a new indestructible sword. Mayu calls Hajime Papa, confusing everyone and upsetting Kaori. Catalia attempts to flee but is caught by Hajime, who tortures her for information, shocking his classmates. Hajime learns a powerful demon has cleared one of the labyrinths and is using its ancient magic to create a monster army. Catalia warns him her lover will kill him in revenge, but Hajime kills her anyway. In the aftermath, Kuki is outraged Hajime executed the helpless Catalia, so Hajime berates him in return for being too weak to do what is necessary, warning Kuki if he or any of his classmates try to stop him, he will kill them too. Kaori confesses she loves Hajime but he turns her down as he already loves Yue. Kaori insists on joining his team anyway to compete with Yue. Shizuku tries to return the sword he gave her but he tells her to keep it, though it is suggested she may be developing a crush on him. As they leave in Hajime's transmuted SUV, Kaori is furious to discover she must share the backseat with Shay and Tio while Yue automatically gets the passenger seat beside Hajime. Hajime remains determined to make it back to Japan no matter who he has to kill, even God himself. If you made it this far into the video, here's a cookie. Please consider liking and subscribing because I'll be making many more fun anime recaps. See you in the next one.